Good evening. Welcome to Your Time to Shine with your hosts, Darlene and Julie.
Your Time to Shine is a radio show devised to help you find your own divine gifts.
How are you tonight?
I'm great. How are you?
It is an amazing day and evening here in the beautiful Pacific Northwest.
Gorgeous.
Yeah, the sun's shining. It's nice and warm. And it goes along perfectly with what we're going to talk about tonight.
Although I'm still wearing a scarf.
I have my gloves on all summer. So what Julie and I were thinking about talking about tonight was something really, really important. And it's been coming up a lot for my clients lately, especially, this feeling of anxiety or not being able to tune into intuition or even what's going on in the body. It's because we don't spend enough time outside. How about you, Julie? Do you get to spend time outside? I know you work 40 hours a week or more at your job.
Right. Yeah. I don't get out much. In fact, Darlene and I were just talking this weekend, and I was sick for a couple of days. And Darlene goes, "You need to get outside, take your shoes off, go walk in the grass." So I did. I took my shoes off. I went out for a walk in the grass. It was chilly and the grass was very, very wet. But we are not in snow, so I took advantage of it, and it was amazing. I mean, it really was. It grounded me. I could feel the energy in the grass and the earth, and it really did wonders for me.
Yeah, I went outside today. I took my shoes off and walked in the mushy mud in my backyard. Did it anyway, and I met someone this weekend, and he was actually a scientist, and we talked a lot about what happens when our bodies aren't outside enough. And I don't mean just outside. I mean truly standing on grass or rocks or in the dirt. Because sometimes if we go outside, we'll just take a walk. But that's either what? It's on asphalt or cement when we're walking on the sidewalk. And that's still not enough for the body as far as resetting itself. We are indoors most of the time, even in schools, and people, all of us who work indoors. My office is inside. And what happens is we're inside the walls, what's under our feet. We can ground and do meditations all day long, but we're still not actually touching the earth. We can imagine it and envision it as long as we want, but it's still absolutely not the same thing. And, you may think it's crazy hearing it all the time. You have to get outside, but it's what the body craves. The body is made as the same elements as nature. And by our bodies being inside fabricated buildings almost 24 hours a day, it shuts off our immune system. It shuts off our bodies and how they work naturally. So even if we do feel healthy and alive and vibrant, we can imagine how much more you can feel that way by going outside and actually hugging a tree, walking barefoot. It's absolutely amazing the difference that the body, the sensations are. So, Julie, when you go outside, what is it, you could probably get a sense of what it is your body craves the most. Is it the woods or the beach?
I would say, well, it's a little bit of both, actually. It's the woods, the trees. I really, to me, trees are fascinating. They're so majestic. And especially the really large old growth trees. We have some really old fir trees here in Oregon in different spots. And you just stand and you look up. It's the same feeling you get when you're standing at the ocean and you're looking out. You are so tiny and minuscule compared to these amazing gentle giants. And so I crave the water, but I also crave being with the trees. The mountain, I like it, but it doesn't do a lot for me. But I think it's because of where I grew up. I grew up on the Oregon coast, and I grew up with a lot of trees around me, and we had very few neighbors. And so, my brother and I were out climbing trees and, rolling down dirt hills and, all kinds of crazy stuff. So, yeah.
That's amazing to have that kind of childhood. And I look now at the kids, and they're indoors, they're playing their video games by the TV, the electromagnetic waves from computers and from their from cell phones, and it's quite a difference.
It is.
And as a teacher, I even saw it in the classroom. As technology grew and as we spend more and more time indoors near computers and electronics, I saw the behaviors of children change. And it was it was dramatic from the early 90s until the mid 2000s when I left. And I can really see a difference between the kids that had limited time in front of electronics and those who were just allowed to, it was around them all the time. So that ability to go outside and actually stand in the grass, and it's definitely a big, big difference. And also, again, that the electromagnetic waves from technology also affects the immune system and how well the body works and functions. And, it overwhelms the nervous system and the immune system. And now that people have, I think we talked about this in another show, now that there's Echo and the Amazon, who is it in the house that you can talk to and say, Alexa, turn on. So that's people, their bodies are constantly surrounded by this electromagnetic, the waves. And where do you keep your cell phone?
Right by the bed.
And I keep mine in my pocket all day long. All of this affects our abilities to connect with our intuition. So if you're wanting to look into, being more psychic or trusting your intuition and what is it saying and checking in with spirit and consciousness, all of that will affect our capacities to hear and to tune in to what's going on. It limits what's going on.
Yeah, you definitely need to disconnect. And like you were saying, kids these days are constantly bombarded with video games and TV and cell phones. And, I've tried over the years to make sure that my daughter gets outside, go outside and play and do all those things. And, for a lot of people, a lot of families, it's really hard because if you think about it, the way that I was fortunate enough to grow up where I had woods and things around me, most kids live in communities and developments, and there really isn't a lot of green space, right? So what are they doing? They're walking up and down the concrete sidewalks if they do get outside.
Right. That's for sure. So everybody try that somewhere in your day or a weekend. Try getting outside. It will really help the body. Our bodies are nature. And if we're not getting out in nature, the body is not receiving everything that it can. So keep those bodies healthy, get outdoors,
Yeah, and if you're not buried in 6 feet deep of snow, um, go outside, take your shoes off, put your feet in the grass, in the mud, and what does your body feel? Think about. I mean, just stop and disconnect for a few minutes and see, can you feel the energy in the earth below you? You know, do you feel the blades of grass underneath your feet? What does it feel like? It's all about connection.
Yeah, and if you have like a favorite meditation, if you can even sense the difference if you do it inside as opposed to outside, like barefoot in the grass. Huge difference. And yesterday I tried an experiment. Well, it wasn't exactly an experiment. I forgot my cell phone at home, and I didn't plan it, but it was really cool because I did it differently today. So I took my dogs for a walk at the park, and I just felt everything so much differently. And because part of it was the phone wasn't in my pocket. You know, I wasn't going to grab it. It wasn't taking up my mind space, or, you know, the technology that, you know, from the waves going on.
Right.
So today I did have it with me, and I stopped and took notice that my body was not connected to even my dogs. So when I have my phone, I'm also not connecting with the people and the animals around me for many reasons.
Right.
So, and being outdoors, it definitely makes a big difference, especially if you don't have your cell phone in your pocket. Try it. It's really, so if you really truly want to tap into your gifts, that's one way to start. I mean, that's the number one thing to do for your body. So, are you ready to take a caller?
Yes, I am absolutely ready.
Okay, cool. So we have Mary calling from Michigan. I wonder what the temperature is there walking barefoot.
Ooh, very cold.
Hey, Mary.
Well, hi, how are you? It was probably about 40 degrees today, so a little chilly on the grass.
Just a little bit.
Yeah. So I do have a couple of questions. My main question I wanted to ask is if you can tell me about relationship-wise, this person that I've absolutely been in love with for a couple of years, how that could be for my future, if there is a future, if you see something like that. And then on a second note, because of who I'm speaking to, being intuitive mentors, I have a whole other question, which is more on the intuitive side as to the possibility of me developing my abilities. And so I just wondered what you might be able to tell me about either of those completely separate subjects.
Well, we love the idea that you want to explore your intuitive gifts. Let me take a couple minutes here and kind of tune in. Darlene might have some questions for you while I'm tuning in here.
So when you say a couple of years with this person, what has the relationship been up until this point?
Well, there's been things that have kept us apart. I mean, we're close in actual geographic location, same town and all of that, but there's been a third-party interference, which is an ex-wife, and she's very controlling and has like done a lot of threatening. Like she's got like a power trip over him, and with the co-parenting of the children, and you know, so that actually has been a big issue. But when we do once in a while get together now, I mean, it used to be more on a regular basis, but now it's random, and it's amazing, you know. And it's like, but we can't be together, you know. And it's like, do I move on? I've tried to move on. He's tried to move on, but we just can't seem to do it. You know, it just never happens. We can't move on. So I don't know if this is somebody, we both feel like we're destined, but this is like the wrong time. it's difficult. It's difficult because I've been single for 13 years, and I'm ready to get rolling, but it's just not a good time for him until his last child is finished school, a few more years, and that's 3 more years. It's quite a ways away. So I just don't know. I just wonder if you see anything.
Well, I do get the feeling that there is a huge connection with you guys, huge amounts of love. It's like he's completely giddy over you. There's definitely a strong connection. As far as the ex, unfortunately, what we see or what we portray or project to somebody is really more a projection about ourselves. And so I think, she has not completely let go. I mean, she has, but there's still a tie and a connection that's holding that thread. There's that connection, the cords. I think Darlene has mentioned this in past, but if you can call in and you have to get permission from this gentleman that you're seeing to have Archangel Michael come in and cut those cords, dissolve them between him and his ex, and start trying to get kind of a clean slate on that piece of it. But as far as you guys are concerned, I get that you guys are, you're definitely, you're two that are meant to be together. I think as far as timing goes, I think it's just, there's just a stumbling block, I don't know that you should let that stop you at this point. I know It's really hard with kids. Believe me, I've been in the same situation, and it's always really hard when there's kids involved. But I think that definitely you need to have some cord cutting. Darlene, can you is there anything else you can see?
Well, something I would add, even though, that idea of like twin flames and that sort of thing, even though there's somebody for us that we're so close with like that, there's still infinite possibilities. So it really goes down to whether or not you want to wait until his older child may be, his younger child may be out of the picture. It really comes down to how long do you want to wait?
I know what I want to do, but I wonder if he's going to be there at the end,
And that's one of those things, even to look into, like with intuition or with psychic abilities, we could look and see only one of the possible futures. And it doesn't mean that's going to be the one that shows up, because in this universe, people have free will. So when someone asks me a question about another person, I turn around and I ask that person, what is it that you're going to choose? Because we really can't know what that other person is going to do a year from now or 5 years from now. Free will means that there are several possibilities that other person is going to take. So my question would be, for you, do you want to wait, or would you like to find? Yeah. So then there's, working through that. Do you date until he's ready? Do you find other relationships or friendships? How would you like to spend your time while he's working through his thing? And
I have tried that. Yeah, I've tried the dating, and it just doesn't work. I go out on a few dates, and then it's like, it's not him, and then I'm like, I'm not, I try, because that's how I've tested myself as far as, in the past, like, do I really, really feel these things for him? And yes, because I just can't find a spark with anybody else. And with him, it's not even just a spark. It's like he said to me, it's like we're on psychedelic drugs. That's what he said. And I'm like, I know. It's amazing.
Yeah.
So,
well,
there's no way you can beat that. He's ruined it for me.
what is it then that he's willing to do?
Right.
Why hasn't he done it yet?
I need to find out.
What that would be my main question. Why hasn't he done what is required so the two of you can be together? And I would keep asking that question.
Right.
Rather than this being a psychic reading, I would, just suggest that and ask, what does your heart say? How long?
Well, I have asked him that, and I don't think he's prepared to be real with himself on that level, because then it would require a commitment, and it's too soon for him to do that. I think he's kind of feels like he's got to have all his ducks in a row before he can say what he wants to say or whatever.
Right.
I don't know.
And sometimes if someone is stuck in that pattern, is he always going to be waiting for his ducks to be in a row?
True. Yeah.
Is there always going to be a reason or something that keeps him tied to his ex? Is that ever going to go away, even if the children grow up? And are you willing to wait for him to see if he does that or doesn't do that? Because when we're in that, it's a pattern that he can't quite get out of.
Right.
I also get the feeling a little bit that this is it's a little bit of an excuse as well. So I think you need to get down to the fact of what is it that's holding him, what's holding him hostage. Because I do feel like, there is a huge amount of love between the two of you guys. And I think you guys could have an amazing relationship, but there's something holding him back. And it could be the fact that there is something that needs to be letting go, and he's just not ready to release that yet. And this is just merely an excuse to talk himself into this, that, I've got to do it this way because of my kids. And,
he's afraid. He's afraid of her, is what it is. She's manic, she's borderline personality disorder, which is psycho. It's extreme, and there's, she doesn't deal with it. She doesn't do anything about it, and she really wreaks a lot of havoc. She's threatened me. I think he's afraid. I think he wants to protect me from her. There's a lot there, But
so is that ever going to go away?
I don't know.
And is it something that you're willing to deal with for the rest of your life?
Well, I am, and I told him that. I told him that from the beginning. He's like, I don't know if you really want to be involved with me. And I'm like, look, I'm already involved. It's like there's no going backward from from what I've experienced with him. And there's no denying it. So for me, I feel like I can take that on. To me, it's worth it. But it's like, I don't know how much more I can convince this guy that, this is, that I can handle it.
I keep coming back to, I understand that she may be really hard to deal with and may be kind of a scary person, but I don't feel that that's the whole thing. I really don't. So I think you guys need to sit down and have a real heart-to-heart talk and find out if he's going to be willing to do what it takes to, shift out of this. Because if he doesn't, then that's going to be pretty much that's going to be your answer. Remember, it's all about choice.
True, very true. Well, that's where my heart has been, is where I need to have a conversation with them. And I guess I needed to just have some sort of clarity on that next step. So
we're actually coming towards the end of the show, Mary. It was lovely to talk to you. If you'd like to continue the conversation, you can go over to your Time to Shine on Facebook, and Julie and I can wrap up the conversation with you. We'd really like to do that. And you've been listening to Your Time to Shine. And thank you for the listeners and callers and watchers on Facebook Live. And I hope you have a beautiful Easter or Passover or whatever holiday is coming up next for you.
Have a great week, everyone.